Welcome to the Good Neighbor podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on with us, and that is Mr. Brad Evans of ProCraft Industries. What's going on today, man? You enjoying the sunshine out there or what?
I haven't been outside yet today other than getting here at 7:30 this morning, but thanks for asking, Sean.
Hey, look, there's two of us now that are in the same boat. I've been in this chair back to back all day. I can't wait to go and just maybe take the sweater off. It's getting a little hot in here because the computer's heating up. And enjoy a little bit of that sunshine. I think it's hotter in here than it is out there right now. So.
I'm with you. I closed my door to chat with you, and it's getting warm in here already.
Cool. Let's cook up a nice, awesome conversation. And why don't we dive right into it? Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your business?
Well, ProCraft has been around for 30 years. Two brothers started it, as I say, 30 years ago. I bought it we took over February 1st of 2024. It's been a whirlwind of a year. We're in the wire and metal fabrication business, is the way I usually put it. Our main products we sell to the horticultural industry, and it's the wire hangers you see hanging from not the garden type flower pots you buy at Home Depot or Rona, but the stuff you see from hanging from street lamps. And I see it in Beertown here in Barrie. They're using our hangers there. And then we do metal fabrication. Well, we're working with two of the larger companies in the Simcoe County area.
Very cool. So a metal expert. How did you get into working with metal? What's the story there?
I'm still learning. I started when I graduated from university. I started with Procter & Gamble, so I'm a soap and paper guy from way back. But no, to make a long story short, I left the country. I was in New Zealand for 20 years. Spent a few years in Europe as well. Lived in Malta. I was doing a lot of work in Italy, and everyone speaks English in Malta. Hardly anyone speaks English in Italy, so I would just commute up to. I usually flew into the airport in Venice and did.
I'm going there for my honeymoon in June.
Nice, yeah, nice. Awesome. Well, we'll have to have a side chat about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when I moved back, I'd been doing a lot of contract work back here in Canada, and it was really starting to snowball. And I made a decision that I'm going to try it. I'm going to come back, and I landed back in Toronto. I was coming back and forth, family and friends types thing over the 20 years, but I landed back in Toronto on January 30th, 2020. I was at the last Leafs Lightning game on March the 10th or 11th, and then COVID hit. I was living in downtown Toronto, had a nice condo on Queens Quay, thinking, man, I'm going to go to Jays games all the time. I'm going to go to the amphitheater. I've got Scotiabank Arena right behind me. Well, that all turned to custard. And I lasted a year and a half, and then bought a house up here in Barrie. I had friends up this way, and came up this way. But as far as the business, it was... I've been looking for businesses for sale. I do have another side business that we won't get into here, but I've been looking for opportunities with a friend of mine. He's not involved in the day-to-day, but he is a shareholder in the business, and came across this one. So the two brothers who owned it had done it for years and years and years, and decided that they thought they wanted to move on to something. And it was actually quite interesting because I reached out to the broker, and he said, I'm sorry, it's under offer. I'll be in touch if anything changes. And 3 or 4 months went by. And then suddenly I got an email from him saying, hey, are you still interested in this business? I said, well, we can certainly talk about it. And apparently the other offer had fallen through. And here we sit a little over a year later, and no looking back now.
Very cool. I do have to have another plug. I lived on Queens Quay from 2015 to 2017. Gray building, red in the windows, right south of the Rogers Center.
Yeah. So I was basically at York and Queens Quay, and became very familiar with the Amsterdam Brew House.
Yes. We could both walk from there. It's like right between where I was and where you are. I remember having a having a party with some friends, and that was going a little longer than expected. And I think we ran out of beers, so it was the only place that was open after 12, and we just walked over there and got some of their blonde ale, which is really good, by the way, for those who haven't tried it. I just
I
walked
like,
all the way
I
back,
like the
and
eye test. I go for the bone shaker.
yeah, okay, yeah. Oh,
But of
very
course, when things started to open up a little bit during COVID, it was just patios. So, and basically the whole waterfront, it was right across from the Toronto Police Marine Unit, and everyone's out with a beer can on the waterfront there, which technically it wasn't legal at that stage, but it certainly wasn't being enforced.
some
Yes.
silver linings that we could try to take out of that, eh?
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
let's
I moved up to Barrie in October of 2021. So I spent not quite 2 years in Toronto, and moved up here, and then started looking for business for sale. And there wasn't a specific focus on any specific, a certain industry or anything like that. We wanted to look for a healthy, controllable business. I didn't honestly, in hindsight, didn't think about steel and aluminum and tariffs. That didn't enter my mind a year and a half ago.
right.
Um, I think about it every day now, but yeah.
So you kind of explained it a little bit more kind of like high level. Could we maybe dive into a little bit of like, the solution to the problem that, the steel and aluminum solves? Like, why is it used? How is it used? That type of thing.
Sure. So it's mainly used because of the weight. So the flower pot you see hanging from a street lamp is much heavier than the lightweight plastic ones you buy at Home
Right.
Depot, Corona. Mainly municipalities, larger bars. We don't sell direct to consumers. We sell to mainly the people who make the compostable pots that it sits in. And there's half a dozen or so of those in North America. We're the largest supplier of wire flower pot hangers in the US and Canada. But as I say, we also have a metal fabrication business, which we're really trying to develop that. That's where our growth opportunity is. So as I said, we work with a couple of very large local companies. The word of mouth, podcasts like yours, when it came up, I was more than happy to do it because the word of mouth really helps. And are you familiar with the Sandbox downtown Barrie?
Yep.
So yeah, so I went to my first event there yesterday, and I'll be joining. Most definitely going to join and become a member of Sandbox because, and for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's really an R&D, networking, entrepreneurs, intro opportunity. And I'm probably doing it a huge disservice by the way I've described it. But yeah, Sandbox is definitely on my to-do list. I'm a member of the Barrie Chamber of Commerce, Canadian Federation of Independent Business, but from a local growth opportunity, sort of why am I going to chase business in Texas or California or places like that when I got to think we've got plenty of opportunity within 150 kilometers of Barrie.
Yeah. That local buy local is certainly being screamed out there
Yeah.
more and more these days.
I
So
pulled this off my product samples. So that's our number one. We make millions of these hangers. It's a 3-strand hanger, a steel tube, and we ship millions of them. And the nice thing with this galvanized metal, but it gets exposed to the elements, and people throw them away at the end of the season and order, caseloads more the following season. So that's the other nice thing. It's I say they throw them away. They actually recycle them. That's the other nice thing with our business. So the plastic pieces that are bought in a Home Depot go into landfill, whereas this is recyclable.
very cool. My fiance is a florist, so I might have
Okay.
to have a little conversation there after
Mm-hmm.
the show. Okay, you talked a little bit about like how you got into in the business. Talked a little bit about living in New Zealand. You were there for, you said, 20 years. Like, what were you doing over there? And maybe what are some different? I'm just curious. Like, what, you're on the other side of the world.
I
Like,
get that question. I get that question a lot. I went down in 1998 with a Canadian software company I was working with. And it was I'd worked for the company for a year, decided I wanted to try and do something different, and had lined up some opportunities down there. But the lady who I worked for, who was fantastic, basically said, "Well, you're not going there without me." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do? You want to try a 6-month contract, and I'll see what I can chase down in the Asia Pacific region?" She said, "Oh, we're never going to figure out in 6 months. Let's do a year." So she said, "Fine." We agreed. I'd go down for a year on her, with her paying me a salary still, and that lasted for more than 10 years. Um,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. And then I went across to, as I say, to do some things in Europe for her, and yeah. And then I really got the itch to do some things on my own, and that's where when we eventually parted ways. But yeah, I learned a ton from her. Fantastic lady, and she eventually sold her business, for a very healthy sum of money, uh,
Nice.
9 figures, and
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah. But I was
Yeah,
one of the first 10 people who worked for her.
that's really
So
cool, man.
that's how I ended up down there, and I stayed. In fact, I still have a house there. I have a house in Auckland still.
Nice. I kind of similar, like just working for other people for like super long time and doing that kind of like hard nosed sales grind for so long, and just always wanted to work for myself. And then finally, not I wasn't looking, just landed in
Yeah.
my lap. And then one thing, fast forward to the next, and super grateful for it.
Well, it's funny is that, people say I've had oh, you're so lucky. Well, it's sort of, you create your own luck. Um, yeah, there's that old saying, there's three types of people in the world: people who watch things happen, people who what is it? Watch things happen, wonder what happened, and I can't. Sorry, I
Make it
can't remember.
happen.
I lost
That
it.
sounds
Yeah,
like the last one would be make it happen.
yeah, 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 yeah. Watch, wonder, and make. That's it. You're right. Yeah. So I don't know. A long time ago, I decided I want to be part of that make it happen crowd.
No, very cool, man. It seems like you guys are doing very well. Super happy to hear about it. So, um, for our listeners, like we always love giving business owners an opportunity, because like you don't know what you don't know, right? And so
Mm.
there are misconceptions or myths out there for people because they're not in the day to day, or they might not be overly familiar with the industry and the processes and what goes behind the scenes and stuff like that. It's always nice to be able to kind of clear the air.
Yep.
Do you guys have any myths, any misconceptions out there you'd like to clear the air?
I think the key one that comes to mind when you ask a question like that is that you can do it cheaper, or you can buy it cheaper in China. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Although I think there are, people that I would target as a potential customer partner in this part of the world that think that's the case. I think when you really do your homework and figure out A, quality that you're getting back, and B, the true cost of landing materials back into the port in Vancouver and getting it to Ontario and getting it into your shop. Not always the case, especially now in our industry, because Canada has a 25% tariff on steel goods from China. So yeah, I think that's probably what first comes to mind when you ask that kind of question. Yeah.
It's a good thing to know, right? Because knowledge is power. So the more people know about certain things, the better decisions can be made and works out better for everybody.
Well, and if I take that a step further, with tariffs going on now, we've all found it very easy to sell into the U.S. They're just across, 150 kilometers away for 90% of us. So it's been easy. So I don't fault anyone for that, including this business. But I look at countries like Australia or New Zealand, and they find markets outside of their home markets, even though they're relatively isolated.
Right.
So yeah, we've got to find a way to do it on this side too. So certainly China has found a way to sell into the Canada and the US. Why can't it, not necessarily into China, but why can't we be selling into to Germany or Brazil or places like that? Yeah.
Every business owner, I'd say for the most part, I won't speak for everybody, but I'll speak for at least myself. You know, when you're doing something you're super passionate about, your kind of business is just kind of like a part of what you do. It's not doesn't feel like work. You
Yeah.
really enjoy it, and you can dump a lot of time into it. Obviously, you know, we're busy. There's lots of stuff that's going on because we're the ones that are responsible. We don't do it, it doesn't happen. That's the magic of being a business owner and owning a business. So, but there are things like there's the rest of life too. It's not just work, and having things that we like to do and hobbies, and also things that will fill back our cup, recharge the batteries, as I like to call it. And it's never really a balance, right? Like balance means that everything is equal. And it's like, no, like we work a little bit more than we play, unfortunately. But we do need to have that harmony between the two. And so when you're not working on your business or in your business, what does Brad like to do for fun?
You won't get this, but one of your listeners, if I say beaches, boats, ballads, and bars, uh, someone will pick up on the fact that that was the name of Jimmy Buffett's box set of CDs many years ago. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. I'm probably over focused on the business versus the personal side of balance. But you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, it's what I do. It's not work to me. It's what I do. Um, and I also made a decision a long time ago. I saw a great interview with no, don't know if you're familiar with Cormac McCarthy. He's passed away now, but he was a famous U.S. author,
Okay.
Pulitzer Prize winner, things like that. He wrote No Country for Old Men, The Road, things like that. But he said something that really stuck out in my mind. Someone said, you know, you've kind of been on the bones of your butt before without, you know, a dollar in your bank account. We've heard the stories. Um, what made you choose to go down that road? He eventually, you know, hit it big, but what made you choose to go down that road? And he said, well, life's short. Who really wants to go through? He said, I know I didn't want to go through life doing what someone else wants me to do every day. So it's like, it rang true for me. It's like, yes, you know, that's certainly a way to make sure you can pay your bills, but maybe there's another way to do this. And as I say, I worked for a fantastic lady for 10 years that I learned a lot from, and took some of those learnings from her. Here
So
we are today.
you got some passion for music when you're doing your business, get your business hat on. Like, what's that passion for you when you go to your day to day gets you out? I'll start with me. Like, I
Yeah,
need to be able to help somebody.
yeah,
So by going out there and finding out that somebody has a problem that needs help, and that's not even doesn't have to be even transactional, like dollars and cents, even just going out, like I love to teach. So if I can put some and bestow some knowledge on something that was passed to me or something that I learned myself or learned through somebody else, that maybe reduce some friction in their life, that maybe help them overcome something or just get to a better place, that's kind of like my jam. And because I know, like, if you help enough people find success, you'll eventually find success yourself. And so just trying to have that attitude going out there, but that fills my cup. Like, that's what I
yeah.
love. What is it for you?
Um, yeah, good question. I think it's you know, I got a staff of 8 people here. Um, 5 of which were here when I came on board. 3 have been either replacements or net new. Um, and just working with them every day. Um, I think I have a good relationship with all of them, and hearing their stories or me being a sounding board for them on things. That's where I spend, you know, the vast majority of my waking hours. And, you know, I was serious when I said the beaches, ballads, boats, and bars. Like, yeah, music, boats, beaches are all a key part of my life in the summer months. But yeah, I think it's similar to you. It's just getting the satisfaction out of having someone come and use as a sounding board and then walking away going, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. And you know, maybe you give them a slightly different way to approach things than they'd been thinking before you talked about it.
Very cool, man. Let's talk about boats. Being on the water. I love being on the water. I grew up fishing. Um, Nice sunny day, be out there swimming, fishing. I'm all about that stuff. What is it for you? Do you have a boat or do you like to go boating?
Yeah, I had a 30-foot sailboat in New Zealand. I learned to sail on Lake Erie. I grew up in London, Ontario, so I learned to sail on Lake Erie. And then I had a 30-footer in New Zealand. And once I sold that and had moved back here, I decided I'm going to go on other people's boats now, uh, which works great.
Oh yeah.
I bring the cooler with beer, and yeah, so that's worked out quite well. You know what? I like power boats, and I get the ease of them. But when you put the sails up and you're just cruising along on a sailboat, it's just you forget everything else happening in the world. At least I do. And being a business owner, there are times when you just want to forget about things for a few hours. You know, there's plenty of upside, but there's some stress involved
For sure.
having a payroll and paying rent and everything else on a weekly basis or monthly basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I dabbled in before we got into doing what we're doing, and I lasted like 4 or 5 months doing it, fully committed the whole bit. Then I realized that I couldn't shut it off, just the nature of that business. And I'm like, there's no way you got to be able to get out there and do something to turn the brain off. If you're in it 24/7, like
Yeah.
no human being can, unless you absolutely, that's your thing and you're not doing anything else. And it's like, no, there's a lot of other stuff in my life I want to go do. I did have my first sailing experience last year. A good friend of ours in the business community has a sailboat, and brought my fiance and I out, and we had a fantastic time.
That's you, not me.
You hear that down there?
Yeah. Although I do bring my dog to the office, I didn't do it today.
And it probably doesn't have the collar on right now because it knows not to bark. So that would be somebody's fault. Could be me. Could be somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's great that you've tried it. I did a lot of sailing in New Zealand. Friday afternoon run races, basically 52 weeks a year. I did some blue water sailing. Went from Fiji across to Vanuatu, which is about a 2 or 3 day sail, and then several weeks around all the various islands of Vanuatu, places you'd never get to other than if you were on a boat,
That's
especially
cool.
a sailboat because it's so isolated. Yeah, yeah. So lots of fun. But like I say, I like being on someone else's boat now.
I just saw a post on social media of like, it said like, hey, are you ready? It's the season to get out there, bring your cooler on somebody else's boat.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
that's
So
great.
my girlfriend has a boat down in the marina downtown here in Barrie. So that works for me. I've got friends in Florida with boats, and yeah, that works just fine, just fine.
Phenomenal.
But yeah, and, yeah, circling back to your original question, um, outside, I like concerts. I'll regularly go down, take the GO train down, or 407 subway, and go to the amphitheater still. We go to Rama when we can, if there's something going on there. Um, again, summer months are a little bit different. I do a lot of. I got myself a Traeger, and I've done a number of briskets. So when you do a brisket, you want to order, uh, uh, actually invite a good, 10, 15 people over when you're doing a brisket. So I do that several times a summer around the pool, and yeah, I do have a social life besides these four walls. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you're talking my language, man. My dad got a Traeger. Best potatoes I've ever had. Just Yukon Golds. Smoked them on the Traeger, and I couldn't believe how
Yeah.
amazing the potatoes were.
Well, with our thawed weather, Sunday, which was the 16th of March, I fired it up and smoked a chicken on it on Sunday afternoon. It's just
Nice.
yeah, very very nice.
Could talk about food all day, but we'll switch over to maybe a little bit more of a serious tone. In life, we walk through, we take our path in life. Kind of, we'll throw things at us sometimes, and not necessarily something that is in our control. Sometimes there are challenges, sometimes there are obstacles, sometimes they're tragedies, and sometimes they're outside of our control, inside of our control. We never know, but I've always been fascinated, with human beings, like our ability to be able to like overcome these challenges and move forward, like, because we have to move forward, right? And it's all like mindset, seeing the glass half full, pulling silver linings from it. What can we take from this?
Yep.
Spin it into a positive, learn from it, and then move forward. So I wanted to ask if you've ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge that maybe you overcome. Maybe it made you better, maybe it made you stronger, maybe it took some silver linings from it.
Where should I start? Okay, let's use this as a public service announcement. Get your colon cancer screening. Yeah, I ran into a little obstacle just before we were to buy this business, and had to actually put the purchase date off by 90 days to figure out whether we were going to go ahead or not. I won't get into detail, but long story short, there was surgery involved, and everything is fine now. I've had my 1 year screening, and everything's good. But don't let that go. If you're 45 or older, make sure you get checked.
Go get checked.
Yeah, leave it at that.
It's like, because you hear about it on TV, you hear about it on the radio, commercials. It's kind of like the same thing, like with the fire departments every year saying, like, hey, go check the batteries in your carbon monoxide and your fire detectors in your home. And it's like, you hear it, but then, like, action doesn't come, and then something happens. And it's just good to be preventative and just get that stuff done. And the importance of understanding that health is number one. We should never take it for granted. And make sure that you're good health wise, because you could have all the money in the world, but at the end of the day, if you don't have your health, you don't have family, you don't have friends, you don't have money, you don't really have much of anything from there. So public service announcement from Sean Preston and Brad Evans. Get yourself checked.
You got it. But it really makes you think. It makes you stop and think. Like I say, we don't have to get into detail. The good news is my 1 year screening came back all good. But it does make you stop and think. To your point, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, not so good.
Yeah, I've been blessed to be around good people in my life, especially in my 30s. Some long-term friends, obviously from 20s, but that's not the point of where I'm going with this. And people that have had a brush up with something scary like that, and I've found a common denominator that it just unlocks something in the mind where there's a different perspective of how that outlook is. Would you be comfortable enough touching on that outlook for you, what that looks like, and maybe a silver lining?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Can you?
Well, just, like, a lot of people are busy all the time. They don't kind of stop to sniff the flowers, so to speak, right? And really kind of be in the moment and really understand that kind of importance, because life is fragile, right?
Yeah. You know what? I don't think I've had other blips or bumps along the way. I don't think I've ever been bad at stopping to smell the roses. I make sure I do that. That's why I sailed Fiji to Vanuatu when the opportunity came up. That's why I went down to New Zealand when the opportunity came up. But you sit in a doctor's office and you hear that word cancer, and it's like, oh, it's like completely different. It's not overwhelming, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I need to take a step back here and decide what's important and what isn't. I probably have fallen back into some of the same like go routine that I was before. And it's not like I was avoiding going to the doctor, but when I came back from New Zealand, COVID was just hitting, as I said. My previous doctor, I've been gone for 20 years, and my doctor had retired. As everyone knows, good luck finding a family doctor now, especially during COVID, trying to get in to see anyone. But yeah, just the stars were aligned for me to go in to see someone, a walk-in clinic. I can give a plug to Dr. Henry at Harmony Clinic at Young and Huronia. And he went through a list and he said, okay, when's the last time you were checked for this, this, and this? And I said, he goes, well, okay, we need to get that done. And it was just, like I say, the stars were aligned and it worked. But yeah, I probably do I probably do pay a little bit better attention to it than I did in the past, but at the end of the day, I'm a type A, and yeah, I'm a type A personality, and I'm usually driving. Yeah, I can't help it.
I'm a type A as well too, so we're cut from the same cloth in that regard.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, you're allowed to pick one thing
yeah,
only, no cheating. But
yeah.
if you had to pick one thing for our listeners about, like, what would be one thing that you would want them to know about your business? What would that one thing be?
Well, I touched on it earlier. We're keen and open for business on the metal fabrication side in the local area. If I haven't reached out to you or through a connection or a network, and you have metal fabrication work that you're getting done elsewhere, give us a shot. Um, there's no downside to letting me quote on your business. And I'm not, I know this is a plug. At the end of the day, you asked me what I want people to know. It's like, yeah, we're here, and we're keen to do more business. We've got room, we've got capacity on our metal fabrication side of the business to do more, and we want to, you know. Absolutely top of our to-do list. We're trying to. When I took over, I won't give you the exact numbers, but the majority of our business was going across the border. It was a little over 50% going over the border. I'm trying to reverse it, so the majority of our business is staying on this side of the border, not losing U.S. business, but growing it to a point where the percentages are in favor of the Canadian side of the border versus the U.S. Setting aside all the other things that have been going on the last 90 days, that was always an objective for us.
And then the sign that the flag that I'm holding up for those who are on video, and it says "Buy local" right here.
You know what? We have fantastic. Our U.S. customers have been fantastic about it. They've been great to this business for years and years and years. I don't think we're an easy item to replace. And the nice thing is, you know, this multi-million unit seller is going to be a few cents difference with the 25% tariff on it. So hopefully most greenhouses and growers aren't going to say, well, we're not doing that this year because it's going to cost an extra, you know, overall it's going to cost an extra 25 cents for our flower pot than it did last year.
Right.
You know, it's not like cars that are going, they say, are going back and forth across the parts that are going back and forth across the border 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, yeah, Sean, I think that's the key thing. We're open for business, and we really want to grow, especially in the Simcoe, southwestern and southern Ontario area. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Well, very, very fun, awesome conversation. It was great to get to know you. The pleasure was all mine. Definitely, there's going to be some people that are interested, want to reach out, get to know you a little bit more, find out some more information. And so for those who are, what would be one of the best ways they can go ahead and reach out?
I'd probably just send me an email. It's pretty simple, brad@pro-craft.ca.
Love it. Nice and easy. brad@pro-craft.ca.
Yeah,
Beautiful, man. Great conversation, and wishing you all the best out there in the future.
I just want to say thanks to you too. Love it.
No worries, man. Pleasure's all ours.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com, or call 705-413-3775.